Anyone who follows me knows that I am anti-marriage as it's constructed here in 2022. I'm obviously not anti-relationship, but I am 671% against legal marriage in the West, which is quite literally a contract between two people and the state. Now, there are many, many reasons men these days are walking away from marriage, but the most obvious reasons are the biased family court system and the broken child support system. Look, guys, we're all well aware of the fact that women file for divorce better than 80% of the time. We are also well aware of the fact that women are awarded custody of the children better than 90% of the time. Along with those two factors, combined with unfair child support and custody arrangements, and women being able to lie to the courts as a mean to a financial end, men are foregoing marriage at an extremely alarming rate. As of right now, only 6 out of every 1,000 people in the U.S. are married. That is the lowest rate in the history of the United States of America. Incentivized divorce, EPAR, spelled backwards, has completely destroyed men and their families for far too long, and men have responded by not walking down the aisle. But what if there was a way to get married without the risk of getting taken to the cleaners in divorce court? What if there was a way to ensure that should you have a child with a woman, that you would be guaranteed 50% custody in the event of a divorce? Now, I know what you guys are all thinking. Donovan, there's no way this will ever happen. Divorce is now in industry, and there's no reason for things to change. And you would be right. While there are some courts that are a little more fair-minded these days, by and large, being a man in divorce and or family court is almost always a bad deal. But today I'd like to engage you guys in a thought experiment. And I want you guys to keep an open mind here, because if things keep going the way they are, this might actually be a real possibility, I would say, within the next 30 to 40 years or so. Now, keep in mind that we're going to be talking about something futuristic here, meaning that technology and medicine will be far more advanced when and if this actually comes to pass. So when you hear things like male birth control, don't dismiss it, because we all know that we are right around the corner from that, and it's 2022. I also want you to keep in mind that this is a thought experiment. Because of this, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be airtight. We have a lot of people watching, so I'm sure that people will point out loopholes, which is perfectly fine. Nothing will ever be bulletproof. However, the purpose of the ECC, as you can see on your screen, or the expiring coupling contract, is to drastically eliminate men getting screwed by the court system or women getting abandoned by the fathers of their children, among other things. So without further ado, let's discuss the expiring coupling contract. Now, there are 5 main purposes for the expiring coupling contract. The first and most important purpose is that it all but eliminates divorce EPAR, spelled backwards. Everyone knows that when it comes to modern marriage, men risk just about everything because of the aforementioned biased court system. This was the main reason men are walking away from marriages, and some men are even walking away from relationships. Well, the ECC protects both parties, the man and the woman, but mostly the men, as men these days stand to lose a lot more in the event of a divorce. His present and future earnings, his savings, his 401k, pension, and so forth. Men also risk losing their driver's license and eventually their freedom as a result of unjust child support payments. Now, I want you to keep in mind that child support payments were necessary back in the day. Why? Because most women who had children didn't work outside the home. So in order to protect women and children from becoming destitute as a result of the father leaving the home for one reason or the other, the United States decided to implement child support payments to make sure that a man's ex-wife and children were taken care of financially. But these days, women also work. In fact, many women out-earn men, including the men they choose to procreate with. Modern women essentially use their children as an additional income stream to add to their own salaries and wages. The ECC eliminates fraudulent desperation declared by single mothers. Now, the second purpose of the ECC is that it eliminates messy or costly divorce proceedings. It eliminates all this stuff, and as you guys will see when I outline this, men will no longer be forced with the, quote, "it's cheaper to keep her" decision. There are many, many stories nationwide about women who marry men of means who have already retained a divorce lawyer. Divorce is an industry, and it is incentivized by our current no-fault divorce system and exorbitant attorney's fees. The expiring coupling contract eliminates the need for courts to intervene. The third purpose The third purpose of the expiring coupling contract is that it encourages good behavior while it simultaneously discourages bad behavior. For example, if either spouse withholds sexual affection from the other for an extended period of time, assuming it is a non-medical reason, the party who is alienated from affection has the right to dissolve the contract. The fourth purpose of the ECC is to incentivize the maintenance of attraction. As I stated before in a previous podcast, the average American wife is much heavier than the average American girlfriend. And the reason for this is that wives have the leverage to let themselves go. The expiring coupling contract incentivizes both parties to remain sexually active and attractive to one another. In other words, women can no longer pull the fat grenade and continue to receive the benefits of being in the contract. The fifth and final purpose is to keep both parties accountable. This is more or less a combination of all four. If both parties know that the other can dissolve the contract or simply not renew it at the end of their year, they are far more likely to do what is necessary to incentivize the other party to want to sign another one-year contract with them. So let's go ahead and get to the nuts and bolts here. When a man and a woman decide they want to couple, they have three options from this point, according to the ECC. If they don't want to have children together, they sign a one-year contract. If they want to start a family, they sign a three-year contract. If they want a traditional coupling, meaning the man is the breadwinner and the woman is a stay-at-home wife, they sign the traditional 2-year coupling contract. So let's start with the 1-year coupling contract. Let's say John and Jane want to make their arrangement official. They want to take things to the next level. They're ready to tell and show the world that they are more serious than just boyfriend and girlfriend status. They've discussed having a family, but they both agree that now is not the time and they want to wait. So they would sign a 1-year contract. The first stipulation of the 1-year coupling contract is that both parties must be on birth control. Remember what I said earlier about this being a little bit futuristic? It's common knowledge that effective male birth control other than condoms are right around the corner. The reason why birth control is required for both parties in a 1-year couple in a contract is because it prevents unwanted pregnancies. Remember, John and Jane both declared that they didn't want to start a family just yet. But as we all know, most pregnancies are, quote, accidental. In other words, when people have sex most of the time, it's really because they're horny, not because they're actually trying to make a baby. Requiring both parties to be on birth control drastically reduces the odds of an accidental pregnancy. It also eliminates the possibility of a woman attempting to baby trap a man or vice versa. This ensures that both people are on the same page, and that contract they sign proves as much. The second stipulation of the 1-year coupling contract is that each party leaves the relationship with what they came with should one or both parties decide to dissolve or allow the coupling contract to expire. This eliminates quote-unquote gold-digging behavior. So if both parties know that they will not benefit financially by deciding to end the coupling, they will choose who they couple with based on whether or not they actually have romantic feelings for them rather than just based on financial status. The third stipulation gives the couple tax breaks and tax benefits for being coupled. In other words, they get all of the legal and tax advantages that married couples get. Pardon me. One can claim the other as a dependent, add them to their health insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance, renter's insurance, etc. The fourth stipulation of the 1-year coupling contract is that in order to renew the contract for another year, both parties must want to renew. If one or both parties does not want to renew, the contract expires and they go their separate ways with what they came with. The fifth and final stipulation is that if they want to start a family, they have the ability to terminate the 1-year contract and its stipulations and sign a 3-year contract. So let's take a look at those. So let's talk about the 3-year contract. The first stipulation of the 3-year contract is that both parties must declare that they want to have children. If one or both parties changes their mind, they can either dissolve the coupling or go back to the 1-year contract. The second and most important stipulation is that a paternity test is required at birth before the father signs the birth certificate. We are all well aware of the scourge that is paternity fraud. There are so many stories about men finding out that one or more of their children they believe to be biologically theirs was fathered by another man or men. We have seen the heartbreak and devastation men go through when they realize that one or more of their kids does not share their DNA. Paternity testing being required at birth completely eliminates paternity fraud, fraudulent child support payments, and so forth. The third stipulation, again, are the tax benefits. The couple can claim their children on their taxes as dependents and receive tax breaks, advantages, and the benefits that come with having children. Stipulation number 4 states that at the end of the 3-year coupling contract, both parties must want to renew. If one or both parties wishes to renew or no longer wishes to renew the 3-year coupling contract, this leads to stipulation number 5, which is that 50-50 custody is guaranteed no matter what. The offspring produced during the coupling will be in the custody of both parents for an equal amount of time agreed upon by the parents. The tax benefit will be divided right down the middle, and neither parent will be required to pay child support because they will have the child or children an equal amount of time. Let's take a look at the 2-year traditional contract. Now, the traditional coupling contract, which will last for 2 years before it expires, is almost identical to the 1-year contract. The only difference here, other than the length of the contract, is that the higher earner must put 3 months of expenses adjusted for inflation and economic ups and downs in a trust to be awarded to the lower earner in the event of an uncoupling or one or both parties not wanting to renew the contract. The amount will be determined by a computer which will calculate all applicable factors, such as the state they live, cost of living, inflation like I said before, and so forth. The human element will not be involved with this process to eliminate bias or vindictiveness from either gender. The amount will not be exorbitant, but it won't be minuscule either. It will be calculated by an impartial algorithm designed specifically to make sure the lower earner does not become destitute in the event of an uncoupling or non-renewal of the contract. If a couple should decide they want to engage in a coupling consistent with past tradition, again, meaning the man is the breadwinner and the woman is the homemaker, that's perfectly fine too. If a woman wants to be with a man badly enough and is willing to risk poverty in the event that either party decides to move on, she'll do what's necessary to incentivize him to renew their contract at the end of the year.